the turn of the century. The vast majority of Jews, 2 million out of 2.5 million, who left Eastern Europe to find their dream, went to America. The smart money was on America. It was the simple place where you could imagine the dream of Jews having both opportunity for tolerance and also economic security.
For Jews, this was a migration forever. They had no positive views of life in the old world. Many immigrants, in fact, talked about the last moment in Russia where they turn around and spit. In a way, we might even say that they actually became American, or they began the process of Americanization at the moment when they decided to leave, because they knew that there was no going back.
Among these immigrants were the future founders of the studios. They came with little money and few belongings, but they brought with them a new vision of America. Hollywood was a dream dreamt by Jews who were fleeing a nightmare. When they landed in America, the Jews expected to find a place where the little guy could make it to the top. Instead, they found a Protestant elite whose mission was to educate the immigrants and keep them in their place.
The dream with which the Jews came to America was very quickly frustrated. They couldn't get into financial services. They could work for slave wages. They couldn't live in the good neighborhoods. They could live in tenement slums. And it didn't take long before a great number of them began to once again fantasize about what it would really mean to realize the original dream.
Many of the future moguls had fathers who failed to adjust in the new world. At a very early age, they became the family breadwinners. They developed an unrelenting desire to make it, to succeed in the America that existed somewhere beyond the Jewish ghettos.
Jews couldn't be in banking. They were shut out of that. There were quota systems to get into Harvard, into almost any medical school or whatever. Any business or profession that was thought to be honorable was in some way or other excluded to Jews. So that they went into businesses that were, in a sense, outside of this system of dominance.
Hollywood's future founders quickly distinguished themselves as risk-takers and innovators. Adolf Zukor made his first fortune with the invention of a fox stole, with a clasp inside the fox's mouth.
The first moguls tended to come from various aspects of the sales business. Dry goods sales, Laemmle was a clothier, Goldwyn was a glove salesman, Adolf Zukor in furs, Louis Selznick in the diamond business. And as they approached the motion picture industry, they approached it not from an engineering point of view, not from technology or machinery, but from how they can distribute a product.
You really can't stress too much how pervasively Jewish the movie industry was in New York before World War I. Not that Jews were making movies or acting in movies, but there probably would not have been an extended Jewish family in New York at that time who did not have some relatives involved in some aspect of the movie industry, which was really a mom-and-pop industry of storefront theaters in not very elegant neighborhoods.
My dad was president of Paramount for almost 30 years. The way he got into the business was quite wonderful. My grandmother, who raised 8 children in 2 rooms above a fish and produce market in a Jewish ghetto in Chicago called Maxwell Street. She came rushing and said, Bonnie, you have to come here quickly. I have the most wonderful business. And she was going on and on and on. And she got him on a trolley car and took him to a kind of storefront Nickelodeon theater. And on the way there, she told him that this was the greatest business in the world because the people paid the money before they got the goods.
Sam ran the projector, and Abe fed the film through it. Harry collected the money, and Jack's assignment, Jack was only like 12 or 13 at the time, but he was singing. He had a nickname, Leon Zuardo. That's what he named himself. I don't ask me how. Anyway, so he was used to chase the audience out of the theater after the show was over, because a lot of times they'd want to stay.
At the turn of the century, movies reflected the vision of America shared by Thomas Edison and the other men who invented the film industry. Most of these old stock Protestants saw film as an amusement for the working classes. The films presented negative images of hook-nosed Jews, blacks, and others. They championed an idea of America where the white upper classes ruled and immigrants knew their place.
Take one movie, just one movie. Biographs, The Fights of Nations. The Jews meet on the street, and a policeman comes up to run off one of them who's peddling neckties. One of the other Jews pulls out money and hands it to the policeman as a bribe to let his friend sell the neckties. There is a thread connected to the money, so as the cop walks away smugly, the money pops out of his pocket back into the Jew's pocket. They're petty merchants, they jabber, and they corrupt cops. It's all so perfect. The blacks, they're in a saloon, and a fight ensues in which a huge razor is pulled. So the blacks dance, they fight over women, and they fight with razors. Then 2 Scotsmen fight nobly with courage and dignity. Then it cuts to the end, and the ethnic groups that are thought to be noble come out into a kind of tableau. John Bull comes out and shakes hands with everybody. Johnny Reb from the Confederacy comes out and takes a bow. The Scotsman comes out and takes a bow. And finally, Uncle Sam comes out and takes a bow. No Jews, no blacks. In effect, immigration has happened, but until the immigrants and the blacks learn what it's like to be old stock, they're not really in it yet.
The highest artistic achievement of pre-Jewish American cinema was the box office hit Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith. The explicitly racist story glorified the Ku Klux Klan and played on white America's fear of racial intermixing. These films reflected popular American values of their era. Ironically, they were being shown in Jewish-run theaters to audiences of Jews and other immigrants. Independently of each other, the Warner Brothers, Zukor,